All right, if you guys are into BJJ, but specifically the new sport of combat BJJ, then you're going to want to tune in. I'm chatting with likely the upcoming world champion, Jared Fekete, and is a brother from another mother. We have a common Morrow in our ancestry. We chatted about his military career as being a Marine Corps officer and how he got into BJJ and why he's now at the forefront of this new upcoming sport. So if you want to find out when he's fighting, it's on Friday, and how to actually tune in, there's going to be a link here in the description, and also how BJJ has helped him alongside using plant medicine to help him along this journey post-career. So do what you got to do, like, subscribe, share, and go tune in on Friday night. Watch Jared kick some ass. Hey folks, as you may have seen, I just got back from a BJJ and healing retreat for veterans put on by David and Cordy from Becoming Ohm, a husband and wife team doing incredible work for veterans' mental health. But my involvement with them actually started before that. I've been working with them in their online coaching program for the last 3 months, and I'm already signed up for 3 more. What I love about this program is that it meets you right at where you're at. You don't have to fly to Mexico or go sit in the jungle to start healing. They help you make real changes in your day-to-day life while teaching you how to work with plant medicine in a safe, intentional, and grounded way. This isn't some weird hippie stuff, but like a legit way to improve your mental health. For me, it's helped me stay more present with my family and respond better in situations that used to set me off. They've worked with over 100 veterans, first responders, and civilians in the last couple of years. If you want to learn more, go follow them on Instagram at becoming.ohm and shoot them a message with the words hard to kill. David will hook you up with all the info plus a special offer just for listeners of the podcast. Becoming Ohm has been a huge part of my journey, and I know that can help you too. Even if you've been let down by everything modern medicine or Veterans Affairs has to offer you so far. My new book, Harden to Fuck Up, was written as a guide for anybody that follows the podcast and wants to put together all the things that they've learned from amazing guests. It is Dallas Alexander approved. Tim Jensen from Grunstyle wrote the foreword. And if you want to lose weight, you want to get a grip of your health, your waistline, and your mental health this year, I strongly recommend going to Amazon and getting your ebook, audiobook, or paperback copy immediately. Would love to hear a review, and train hard, fight easy. Let's get back to the episode. Jared, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. And folks, this is Jared, my brother from another mother. I think literally we're long lost relatives, and I wanted to have him on the show because we just spent a week in Mexico chilling with Dave and his wife Cordy on a really interesting retreat for veterans. Jared's a Marine Corps veteran. He's also pretty good at jiu-jitsu, and he's going to go through his story because it's really, really cool to see the progression of veterans, especially as they get out, and how they take the next steps and where they take their next steps into. So we figured this would be a good chance to kind of get to know each other a little bit better on the show after spending a week together, and then share our shared experiences through jiu-jitsu and other things. So Jared, brother, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I apologize if you hear my big polar bear of a dog barking in the background. She can be pretty aggressive and loud. But yes, thank you for having me, man. And yeah, do you wanna kind of go into the Marine Corps side of things first?
I think we should need to start with why we're wearing the same hat.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing. When we showed up in Mexico, you had your boonie cap on. I was like, I always want to bring mine, but I'm always like, I don't want to be that guy that. And then you're just like, no, dude. It's like, dude, live your life, bro. He's like, don't let anybody tell you can't. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. So I'm wearing it on that podcast. You're wearing your signature cap. You know what? This is it. I'm all summer. This is my headdress from now on.
Amen, dude.
I'm just gonna be the guy.
It's real too. What you're saying, because like if I run into a Marine, it's like you're gonna kind of like have to gauge if they're judging you hardcore or not, and half of them are, and half of them are gonna be like, yeah, like you, like, yeah, I want to wear my boonie. Like, I fucking love my boonie.
So like the CAD Pat one and the Marine one are very similar. Like Marpat and CAD Pat are very similar. And if I wear this in the States, I'll probably get some like crusty Marine being like, "Hey, brother, like, sorry, Canadian, this is how we roll." And I do so like this here. The Canadians will recognize this, but we get these booty caps that they're super floppy. I'm not joking. Where they go out to here, and I have to modify it. So you have to cut it and send it to a tailor, that knows what they're doing, and then sew it back up. That's like how you know a guy's like switched on, because they take the extra effort to go ahead and clip it, because if not, you look like
Carol.
a fair, not you look like you're a welfare fisherman walking, and if it gets wet, it's hanging over like goofy ears. It's like, dude, man, I can't walk around with that. But then there's the sergeant majors are like, "Hey, you altered the Queen's kit or the King's kit." Now it's like, that's a chargeable offense. I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, you're right, Sarge, you're right. I should probably get on that and police it. So cool to see that we've got a commonality there. I'm going to wear this from now on. I like it. But let's get into what you're up to, man. So I didn't know you from Adam showing up to Mexico, but you are now competing in combat jiu-jitsu. So that's where I want to go with this conversation. But how did that all get started, man? Like, obviously, like, you joined the Marines young, now you're out. How did that progression start from, the time you're, a kid to, now being on the, I'm going to say the world stage, combat jiu-jitsu? How'd that all kind of take place?
Yeah, wrestling is kind of my focal point, the thing that I always like immersed myself in, always called back to it. Lots of times I could have quit and I didn't. After high school, there was a moment I blew out my knee in football, and I missed my entire senior season of high school, and I had a really big year ahead of me. I was ranked number 1 in the state, looking to be a state champion, and I lost that season. And it broke me a little bit, but I chose, with the help of my dad and my mom and, just a good support system, to, keep going with it, because I felt like I had unfinished business. So that kind of pulled me and weaved me into a cool scenario with actually wearing, shout out to a coach, Jim Grunwald, who was a 2-time Greco-Roman Olympian, world team member. And this guy is, it turned out to be, and still is, a really great mentor of mine. So pulled into his system, did 4 years at the university level, NCAA. Qualified for nationals. It's funny, like, I kind of repeated my senior year. I tore my pec, but this time I tore it in a match, and I continued wrestling through that, and fell short of my goals at NCAA's. Like a lot of the guys that I beat that year, I mean, like major tech, like really really whooped on. We're all Americans that year, and so yeah, it just hurt. I fell short again.
Yeah.
And then, I graduated and I got married, and I was kind of lost, so I found a gym that was teaching jiu-jitsu and MMA, and I got into amateur MMA a little bit. But I just wasn't satisfied with the pec tear, and I got in a little bit of trouble in college, so I had to get some waivers to get into the military. So
Trouble.
I had to get signed off by my dean of students, and then like a captain in my OSO, the captain who got me in was this really awesome, shout out Captain Crackillo. This dude really loved that I was a wrestler and knew that I'd be successful in the Marine Corps. And so like he entertained everything, got the waivers pushed through, got my pec checked out and cleared, which nobody else was willing to do. I was trying to enlist. I was trying to go, 18 X-ray into the Green Berets. I was trying to get a SEAL pipeline contract, just to find something that was going to satisfy this. Like, I was like, I have all this energy from, wrestling in college. I just didn't want it to go to waste, and I had a degree and a bunch of debt. So I was just like, and I'm newly married, and she's making like 5 times what I'm making. So I get my balls back. So I joined the Marine Corps. And I got into the Marine Corps, and that was such a relief. But then I realized, shit, I'm going into the Marine Corps, and I don't really like authority. Like, I never really liked our government. Like, going through college, I didn't like our system. Like, I don't like the college school system. I think it promotes, ADHD, lack of creativity, like regurgitation. Not to say it wasn't a really good environment. Like, it just is what it is. Like, that environment helped me grow, and I'm not mad at it, but it is a messed up system. It is the Matrix. Like, culture, the culture of pharmaceuticals, the culture of higher education, the culture of the military industrial complex. None of that ever was like, I didn't do this to be, a hero. I just was trying to find my path,
Yeah.
or like that I'm like super patriotic or anything. And I do love our country, but I just like, it's just all the same to me. But anyways, I joined the Marine Corps, and with the idea that I would shoot for the Marine Corps wrestling team as my primary focus, because it was either, be a professional combat, or like be a professional combat athlete, or, plan B was be a professional, like mercenary, like figure out how to be in an athlete mindset, but really my job is to be, a mercenary. But I guess like truly I only ever really wanted to be an athlete, because I'm not like
You're
really.
like a reluctant soldier of fortune. Like, fuck, can I wrestle for this contract? And like, no, man, you got to go protect diamond mines. Like, is there any wrestling involved? Like, probably not. Okay, all right, I'll do
Exactly.
this one.
And total respect to anybody in that environment doing those things. It's just, I think for me, it feels a little more at home to like a fight or whatever is more representative of what, a conflict out in the world. So I guess I'd rather just be like, yeah, in like a safe space with a fucking referee that, yeah, I get to fight to the death with somebody, but I'm not in a place where maybe I have to, children are getting killed or women are getting killed, or, and I'm doing this for these people who just, are
Where the
profiting.
chaos is contained to a mat.
Yeah, for sure. Which makes more sense now. I see a little bit more clearly as I've been on like this plant medicine and like maybe like a spiritual path since I've gotten off. Although I think our whole lives are a spiritual path, but it's just like it's been a little more intense these last couple of years of like discovering more of like who I am, that kind of thing, what I'm doing, what my purpose is and stuff. And I think it is just, I realize it's just more of an internal like wrestling, and like developing as a human, so that like, maybe bring that to the world or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said there about, like you're never like hugely patriotic. You never really agreed with the system. However, you still joined like the most system thing you could do, right? Which is, the Marine Corps. That's the United States like hammer of Thor. But I understand where you're coming from, because there's maybe it's because we're related. And folks, we have a Morrow that is like common to us, because I think it's on your dad's side. There's Morrows, or your mom's side.
On the other side, yep.
So long story short, there were Moros that came over from Ireland. One went to Montreal, one went to New York State, and then broke off from there. So, but that being said, like the Irish are traditionally rebellious, right? Like it's kind of what the Irish do. And I have the same feeling, that anti-establishment feeling that constantly bubbles up all the time. But ironically, I joined the military. I joined like the most British unit you can in Canada. We literally wear the grenadier tunic. And I recognize there's like a duality there, but the only way that you can actually change the system a little bit is be a part of it, in my opinion. You have to kind of do it, be like, maybe confirm some of the things that you had already, preconceived notions that you had, or not. But at the end of the day, if you don't do anything in the system, in my opinion, you can't really be an advocate for change, because you don't know what it's about. So I know where you're coming from, but I never really fit in. I always really like, I did well in the military, but I also didn't like being in the military, but I love being in the military. Is a really weird, I guess, 15 years for me. It would be the same for you. Like you did well, but reluctantly. Was that, is that the best way I could describe it?
Yeah, absolutely. Stuck out like a sore thumb in certain ways, like really rub people the wrong way,
Yeah.
because
It's your attitude, right? You
yeah,
just exude like, this is stupid.
yeah, and that there's maybe a little bit of there's a better way to do it, but I also don't always think that I knew what was better. But it's like
Yeah.
you're just in this, you're like the cog in the machine type thing. But what I did find is it's you do attract and draw attention to the right people too. I met my battalion commander at Jiu-Jitsu, and I had orders to a unit that was going to be deactivated in 8 months. So I knew I was going to be getting new orders anyways. It just was the first unit that I had. It just wasn't a good fit. Long story short, major at the time, he was about to turn lieutenant colonel. He was going to be taking over of another engineering unit that was like a perfect fit. He got my monitor to change my orders, or got me orders to his battalion. So I fell underneath him. He's my boss's boss. And from there, a bunch of things happened. COVID vaccine, I denied all this stuff, but it ended up turning out in my favor that, when the opportunity arose, he was ready to send me to the Marine Corps wrestling team. And like went to Armed Forces, went to the US Open. He got me on Skill Bridge. You know, he's a huge, yeah, just such a huge influence on, you know, my path. And I just have so much gratitude for him. But then like the Marines underneath me too, like some sergeants that I made, just lifelong friends, you know, people that are
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like your energy, attracts the other people that have the same kind of energy, right? Like that's kind of what we're learning in Mexico too. Back to the COVID thing, did you get wound up and all that? Like, did they punch you for it, or were you able to kind of skirt it and like didn't have to worry because you had people looking out for you and you were wrestling and all that stuff?
Totally. Everybody got punched by it, right? I personally did and didn't. So, although I would have loved to have gone, like I was a platoon commander at the time, which is, as you know, like the most fun job you can have as an officer, you know, having 30 Marines, 40 Marines underneath you that are just, you know, if you treat them well, they treat you well, you know, it's just a family. And, you know, you fall in love with those people. Yeah, like I had a hard time. I never told any of my Marines to get the vaccine. My company commander did, and I also told my company commander that I would not tell anybody to get the vaccine because I wasn't personally going to get it. But I also did the right things, and I was prepared in a lot of ways to submit my religious accommodation. I just clogged up their legal system. You know, I was like, okay, I have rights, and I think that was the hard thing to relay. And I got 4, 5, 6 Marines to do the same process because I led by example. So it was like, you know, some people just was like straight up, no, like I'm not getting the vaccine. They can kick me out. And then they got kicked out like really quick. And for me, I don't know. I think I just was in a position where I understood that they had to do things right and they had to do things legally. And I knew so deep down that everything that was going on was wrong. It was coercive. It was untested. It was, you know, it's just, I wasn't duped by anything. I mean, I don't know. It just felt like it was so obvious that this was a power move, that this was a fear tactic, that this was just like, you know, everything that COVID was. It just turned out to be bullshit. So got pulled off my deployment to Africa, which was a humanitarian mission. We were building some schools and stuff, and turned out to be a complete shit show anyways, very unorganized. So, I mean, I look back and I'm just like, okay, I was like protected in a lot of ways from this really shitty experience. Got pulled off of my platoon, went into a battalion training officer role. So I was overseeing the training for the entire battalion. So like 1,500 Marines, and just like an office job, you know, 9 to 5, which turned out great. I could work out for an hour in the morning, go to work, get off of at lunch, you know, hour and a half, 2 hour workout, come back, do some office monkey stuff, and then go home and then go to jujitsu maybe later that night or whatever, you know. So I had the training life while all my religious accommodation stuff was being processed, which took a year and a half.
Yeah.
You know, I just was sitting in an office job, and then, you know, it was really easy for my battalion commander to be like, all right, 2 weeks, you know, go train for armed forces, or a month or whatever it was, you know. So it's cool. And I was on PTAD, or temporary assignment orders, to wrestle. So it was
Very cool. Yeah. So sticking to your principles and, you know, is an important lesson. I think most of us, I don't know if most of us learned, but I definitely, I had to reevaluate everything. Like I was already out of the military, right, for a while when all this stuff started coming down the pipe with COVID. I mean, one of the things I realized is like, what are my principles? Like what do I need to hold the line on? Like what is now my line in the sand? So I recognized, I was like, man, I don't think I have a hard line in the sand, but I knew things were messed up. I was like, this doesn't seem right. Like, and the common response is like, well, are you a doctor? It's like, I don't need to be a doctor to know if things are right or wrong. You know, like that's where I think a lot of people kind of miss the mark. Where it's like, well, just follow what they have to say. Like they wouldn't be telling us to do something if it was bad for us. Like, hold on a sec. But that doesn't need to be the way we do with calculus here. It's based on, hey, do I feel like this is the right thing for me? And if so, sure. But if not, I mean, at least all the movies that and cartoons that I watched in the 80s and 90s were all like, be your own man, you know, go kick ass and take names. Nobody forces you to do shit if you don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, but this one thing you have to do it. I don't know about that, man. That doesn't pass a sniff test. And ultimately, you following, you know, your heart and following your own set of values led to something fruitful from what it seems. So, I mean, after you're done with the Marines, right? You're out. What then transpired, and like, how did you keep that path going, going steady down to, compete in jiu-jitsu and be where you are now?
Absolutely, yeah, and to an extent, right? Like it really helped me, and I think it was all meant to be that path that I took to fight it, and then everything that came after was all meant to be. But it caused a lot of stress in my marriage, and which ultimately, right after I got out of the Marine Corps, we separated. So I went through this. She was my high school sweetheart, so we'd been together for 13 years, and big change, and a little bit of shock for a while, and not even just shock, just like I just pushed through it, like kind of like where we were trained to do,
Or
and
like,
yeah, exactly, and trying to and it was a peaceful split. Fortunately for me, I have a lot of respect for my ex and a lot of gratitude, and we have good communication now. But it just part of the path, right? Like everything changes. It's just like I had aspirations of getting into Marsoc and continue to wrestle and being I would have maybe stayed in had I not felt like I was completely like having to compromise my values and my principles and these things to just to keep a job, or something like that I didn't totally believe in. But jiu-jitsu ended up being a lot like how wrestling was as I was, coming up in the world. Jiu-jitsu then became kind of my focal point, which to me, jiu-jitsu and wrestling are the same thing. It's a grappling art, a form of mixed martial arts that, it's really a form of inner work, like having to go to practice, having to do these things to feel better so that you feel better at practice, like, connecting with people in a way that's kind of inherently violent, but you're doing it because you want to have more control of your violence because, therapy in a way. So, but I also have had a lifetime of performing. So been on these, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of matches growing up, like just from youth all the way through to now. And so like I have a lot of experience in like what it means to like go out there and perform, which by the way, I do want to talk about your tournament if
dude,
there's time.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it didn't happen. It's the
Okay.
biggest disappointment. I got crushed. I didn't even get to get on the mats. Oh man, my kids fought. It was a very small local event, and I weighed in. Everything's good. Okay, I see there's like 5 guys around my size and age, right, in the entire gym. It's a school gym. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, they've got their bracket. They're fighting. I'm like, okay, well, they've done their first fight. I'm like, oh, I'm next. And then I go to the desk and I'm like, hey, guys, where's my fight? They're like, dude, you don't have anybody your age and weight category. I'm like, okay, but were you guys going to tell me? They're like, yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if these guys want to go up or down. I'm like, now? The guys were already gassed, right? So I was like, oh, shit. So I didn't get to fight. So I'm aiming for June now. My gym's going to a big competition in June, so I got to heal up my shoulder and my hip. But
Yeah, big part of the learning process is like disorganized, like smaller local tournaments. But I mean, again, it's just a rep at getting there. Your kids got to compete. You get to see it. There's a lot of value in watching it. You were prepared to go out, so it is a
and my
disappointment when
jujitsu has gone from like here to like here, because with the stress of getting ready for everything matters now. You're like 3-4 days a week. I'm on the mats and like watching videos, and then we got the dummy downstairs, and I was training with the kids, and like it was just an awesome experience. Leveled me up 100%. And like obviously doing the week with you guys and working with you and stuff really brought my game up. Because when I went back to the gym, like my training gym here, right away the guys noticed. They're like, hey, like, you've been training more? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. They're like, you're not a freaking white belt. And like a new guy came, they're like, he's not a white belt. He's not a white belt. I'm like, guys, I'm a white belt. I don't know what to say. They're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're lying. That's you're sandbagging. So I was like, all right, cool. I took that as a compliment. So,
I know, I
but
freaking
yeah,
love that. That's saying that. Yeah, that is the those are the things that the signs that you kind of see. But yeah, like the process that you go through to like how much is too much or how much is not. Like we got to find that middle ground to like stay in this mindset of hey, I'm preparing, not over complicating or like putting too many expectations on exactly what happens or having to control the exact outcome. But I want to be prepared. I want to show up and perform.
precisely.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of forget where I was at before that though.
Progression to where you're at right now in terms of like just left the military, right? And during that transition, your marriage falls apart. And then you're just looking for something in terms of like jiu-jitsu was almost like a therapy. And I have to agree, man. Actually, when we brought that up, there's literal science on it. Dr. Gino Kalura had on the show, right? Jiu-jitsu for men, especially, and those that are, like us, veterans, there's a certain need when we get out to still express violence, but in a controlled manner. And I would argue all men probably need to do that, but we have a different experience because we were literally trained to kill for however many years. Like that's basically what our job was. So when you remove that from a man's life, it can be really destabilizing, right? And so in your case, you've had it since you were a kid, even more destabilizing. For myself, I never really was into combat sports growing up, but now that I've gotten into it, I realize the benefit, man. Like you said, like being able to control that physicality on the mats and then realize that you can be more confident out in your day to day, which is something that only clicked, I think like 2 months ago. I thought there was something that was about to like kind of pop off. And I was like, well, if it does, not the end of the world. Cause I was like, wait, I've been training hard for like 4 months and my stand-up game previously is not the greatest, but at least I know that if I'm up against somebody, I could do I could withstand something. I could definitely intervene with a lot more confidence. And that's the difference between like now and let's say like 6 months ago is just the confidence, right, of being out, especially when I'm out with the kids too, if anything were to happen, God forbid. And I think that's what you were getting at, right? Like you have this ability to express violence in a controlled setting. And especially since you're now released from the military, now at least you've got something that's been consistent that you can go back to, be like, yeah, I know this, like this is stable. So then from there, like what were your next steps? Like releasing from the military sucks, transitioning out of the military sucks. It's a journey. So what was that journey like?
Yeah, so I mean, the focal point being jiu-jitsu, knowing that there's levels to this game, and I am sort of breaking into the top higher tier of this jiu-jitsu game, and that's always been my desire, is just to get into and break through to the next level and then establish credibility on that level and continue to climb those ranks. And I think always knowing that I have been committed to that, and that just is programmed into me from like I'm willing to like go to these bigger tournaments, I'm willing to travel, I'm willing to do all these things. Like I am fully committed to it, and have been, and that's been a real stabilizing thing in my life. But it's not perfect, it brings up bigger questions as to like, why am I doing this? Is some of this like, am I running away from something? Like my, romantic relationships falling apart. I have, just a lot of things to look at, so it is sort of like this thing that, as I am wanting to get better at it, I start to look at the brain development, my mind's development, my belief systems, my limiting beliefs, because I really feel that anything is possible in the sport. Like I can achieve, becoming a world champion, because, getting to the highest stages of jiu-jitsu, as far as like, credibility and recognition and stuff like that. But it does come down to, where am I holding myself back? And as I like started to go down that route, while chasing or like being committed to my path in jiu-jitsu, and knowing that is, I'm going to do it. Like I consider myself a professional athlete. So it's just like how I treat myself, so it's like this mix of like perfectionism versus like, like being disciplined and trying to like know the difference. It led me down and led me to, getting into psychedelics and getting into, I went to Flow State. So right after I got out of the military, I went to Flow State, the first one, or maybe one of the first ones, and, military law enforcement. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And it gave me a really clear idea on how to start setting intentions with these things. Cause like, being a fighter, being a jiu-jitsu athlete, being a Marine, like I have this freaking wild side to me that I don't know how to explain. Like they're like feral. Like I don't want to hurt anybody, but honestly, sometimes like I don't know what's coming out of me, So it's like, I know a lot of people can relate to that. But it is our responsibility to friggin' hone that in. And so, I always have had a pull towards, drugs, wild experiences, like all these things, but without intention and without like a really good framework as to why I'm doing things and being protective of my energy and stuff like that, you can get in a lot of trouble. Like growing up, I had a pretty bad pill addiction, like young, and that was not good. My brother overdosed when I was in college. He didn't get out of it, and then I was drawn towards these like medicines and cannabis and stuff like that, but I didn't, I wasn't using it well. It's so taboo. You don't get good mentorship. Like I had my big brother teach me, but he was also dealing with the same thing. So I think once I got out of the military, kind of like funny, I started microdosing while I was in the military, and like stuff like that. That really helped me. Yeah, I
Were you
kind of
able to
got
talk?
drawn
Were you able to like on download like talk to other guys that are doing it? Like, hey, bro,
on the download for sure. Yeah, well, actually, one of the staff sergeant that I knew actually helped me start growing it. So there
oh,
was
cool.
like yeah, just like on the underground, like even at Wheaton being a private Christian school, there was an underground. There were like the people who get it, you know?
The cool kids, the cool kids.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, and it's cool because if you just stay true to who you are, you end up finding those people. Anyways, yeah, so I get into sort of the psychedelics, and the flow state jiu-jitsu retreat helped me to, as I'm sure you kind of also experience, like set intentions, tap into a little bit of like what is spirituality, like how can we develop practices. Not every one spiritual practice is going to work for everyone else. There's so many different spiritual disciplines that you can have. Just being mindful, focusing on your breath, those kind of things are the ways in which we can have a spiritual practice. It doesn't have to be going to the Amazon and doing ayahuasca or anything, but these things can help you clear out some of the garbage, some of the things that are floating around that just no longer serve you and stuff like that, and sort of get clear on, what I'm doing all this for. So, I mean, kind of like long story short, I just feel like I've been trying to like tame that wild side with,
That wild bear, that
yeah.
wild bear. That's that's really cool to hear, man. Especially because it sounds like there was a force that kind of drew you to the medicine, right? It seems like you were just compelled to find it, which I always find it interesting to hear people's stories on how they found psychedelics and started using it in a manner that helps you explore the deeper parts of yourself, like you said, like having some mentorship, because I think that is endemic in our culture. We abuse plant medicine left, right, and center, like tobacco, like we smoke a pack a day, like that's an abuse of a medicine, right? And having hopping blown up my nose for the first time by you, which is tobacco, I was like, holy shit, this is tobacco. Oh my god, like that was insane. But I could see why that I wouldn't have used that, because that would be maybe once a day. So I've done it since coming back, but it's harsh. It's not something that you can just casually sit and smoke, right? And same with psilocybin. I can microdose, but I'm not going to have a full-on psychedelic trip every day or every week. I've got things to do. I got family, kids, etc. But I also know that there's an intention that needs to be set before doing this kind of stuff, because that's the respect that I lacked before, especially with cannabis too. I get like a mountain of cannabis every week if I want from the government. But there's no training on it. They're just like, here, numb yourself with this. And that's essentially what it is. It's just a numbing agent. But I see it now as a healing agent. So I make sure to set an intention. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I learned from flow state was, really set that intention. Because if you don't set the intention, then you can open the door to abuse. And I don't want to go down that road. So in your case, like the psychedelic door has been open, right? Has it helped in like improving your jiu-jitsu, and has it helped just allow you find your path a little bit better since you started?
Yes, yes, it totally has. And yeah, it definitely was a calling of some sort that I don't really know totally how to explain. But yeah, even in college when I was, I'd listen to like Joe Rogan back then, and just different people that he had on that would kind of like, yeah, like rev my curiosity engine as to like what are these things, like why are people going to the jungle, like what, and I was always, even at that time, I studied psychology in college, and I was just like curious. It's like, what is, sports psychology, like what really holds us back? And I think these medicines, they teach you about relationship, which relationship is fundamental. in our lives. Our relationship with ourselves is basically everyone else's, you know, sort of a mirror in some way, shape, or form of your relationship with yourself. So it's like these medicines are not saviors. It's not like you're gonna go in there, take ayahuasca, and come out like, you know, like healed. The healing, you know, the healing is in your willingness to trust that, you know, the intention you set that you're going to heal, that you're healing, that you're working on these things, you're going to face these things, is working.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you can have some really profound insights. You can have these really great things. Like, heck, like I've even had like ceremonies where it was like we feel like little kids, and like it's, you know, it really is a joyful and happy, you know, freaking time. But then I've had other ceremonies where it's like, holy shit, like who got murdered? Like who died, you know? And it's heavy. And, you know, and the work is, you know, you're doing the work not only for yourself, you're doing it for everybody, you know? So it feels more sacred when you do it that way. So these relationships with Mother Ayahuasca, or the relationship with the mushroom, or the relationship with cannabis, it's like, yeah, it's wild. Everything you're saying about cannabis is true. Like I have basically completely revamped my relationship with cannabis because I grew up doing it, and there was a lot of times where it ended up being a numbing agent, and, you know, took me far away from what I needed to be doing, you know? And so I've tried to repair that relationship a little bit. But yeah, like our dispensary weed, it's all Frankenweed. It's all grown in shitty light. It's literally there to just like do what the government does best, and just like plug you further deeper into the matrix. So if you're smoking, you know, dispensary weed, I would encourage you to find somebody who grows organic, sun grown, and, you know, form a little better relationship with it.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I saw it for what it was only about a year or two ago, where it was during COVID, right? So that'd be more than 2 years ago. But, you know, our dispensaries and everything, and you know, what we call the liquor stores, they're all allowed to stay open. Everything else closed. Gyms closed. What? We mean gyms are closed. What? And the full on, like the leaders here were like, well, yeah, but times are tough. You're going to need an escape. I'm like, oh, yeah. Like you're saying the part you're not supposed to say out loud right now. You're basically saying like, we got to numb you. Like we're not stupid. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like that's literally what they're doing. So I got to be more aware that if I'm getting something for free from the government, I got to be really cognizant of like, why am I getting so much right now as a veteran? Is it because they want me to heal, or is it because they just want me to numb, and they want me to numb? You know, so
Yeah.
I have a totally different relationship as well, and that was important. And the fact that and it was, you know what, it was our mutual friend Ryan Carey who opened my mind to psychedelics, because he told me about his first experience when he went to Colombia. And I was like, well, look, if I didn't know you that well, and like you're telling me the story, I'd be like, dude, you're nuts. Like this is, but I knew that this wasn't bullshit. Like this is an actor. I could like appreciate the fact that he had a profound life-changing experience with this medicine. And so then that just took me down the rabbit hole. But what else is there that I don't know, you know? And like you said, Joe Rogan was really influential for that too, just to kind of normalize it a little bit. Because growing up, for me, the mind altering drugs like LSD, magic mushrooms, that they were all, for me anyways, they were dirty drugs, you know? Like it was like the stigma associated with like, oh dude, you're doing like you're a deviant, man. I don't want to hang out with you. Like that's weird shit, you know? So I stayed away from it as much as possible. And didn't dabble until like honestly like a year ago, with microdosing, or 2 years ago was microdosing psilocybin, and it was because I had Dave on the show, right, from Flow State, and they just like the journey towards it. It's like a little whisper. It's like it's like you need this. Come here. It's like I don't know, but it truly is a journey, man, because you have to actually appreciate what you're doing. In my opinion, you can't. I guess you could go all in and just have like a mega dose and go, you know, like a kid would, right? Like a teenager. But you know, I'm in my 40s, so I look at it more as like, well, is this really going to serve me? And you know, since Mexico really kind of opened my mind a little bit, because we did that breathwork ceremony. And you were telling me like, dude, the last time I did it, I was soaked in sweat. I'm like, I was super skeptical.
Yeah.
But dude, afterwards, I was drenched. I was like, what the hell just happened to me? Because I've never experienced anything like that before. And you know, I think you can explain your experience a little bit better. You know, like we have psychedelics, but we also have the ability within our breath to connect with something. For me, was a psychedelic experience. I connected with what I think is God, because somebody was talking to me, and it wasn't me. It was something else. It was a universal force that I felt, a calmness that I've never felt before come over me. You care to share like what you've experienced just with like, you know, deep psychedelic experiences and even breath work that's helped you along?
Yeah, for sure. The ayahuasca experiences, they really gave me a better understanding of the importance of ceremony. Whereas like breath work has been, like you said, like pretty intense. Like you go in with what your expectations are with a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of unknowns. Fear is the biggest creator of illusions, you know? And so these medicines become like these symbols of something that's very scary in a lot of people's lives. And you know, I think because I started tackling that when I was, you know, in my 20s and stuff like that, looking at it, and I've always been pretty bold when it comes to like ingesting things and stuff like that. And it's just, you have to kind of focus on what your intentions are going in, but also kind of what life is going to look like after on the integration side of things too. Like there's that part of it. And even in a breathwork ceremony, it can be the same thing, because in anything that you're doing, you're kind of like, you know, you are releasing things, you are shedding things. Like in the ayahuasca ceremonies, purging is a big concept that you kind of have to wrap your head around. It's like, oh, you know, like a lot of people are afraid, I don't want to, you know, puke, or like, I don't want to shit my pants, or, you know, all these things. But ultimately, like a giant yawn can be a purge. Like my entire first 4 ceremonies in Peru were mostly just huge yawns. You know, I had some, you know, I had some huge, or I had some laughter in there too. You know, I never puked the first go around, but with Ryan, Operation Purify, went and did Yahe with him, and I puked a lot, but it's all around what you've already, you know, sort of asked the medicine to do, which is, you know, your tetras going in. So when you purge, it's like that is like a physical representation of I'm getting rid of the old, you know, and then you're open, you're cleared, you have you know, more space inside you to sort of receive what it is that you need to kind of go forward and be that better person, that better version of yourself that you want to be. But that can happen in a workout. You know, if you go into a workout with the intentions of like giving it your all and shedding, you know, some of this weakness, and, you know, the physical representation of that is going to be sweat, it's going to be breath, it's going to be, you know, whatever it is. And then, you know, the integration on the back end is, you know, I'm more focused, and I feel myself, I feel my body upright with good food, and, you know, high, you know, high vibe people. And, you know, so it's like, it's all the same thing, you know, it just represents, you know, whatever. But his process is like alchemical process or whatever. So, I mean, it's definitely been, there's nothing that I like want to say is like, oh, there's this one time that like blew my mind and I met God or anything like that. My life has just been more real, you know. It's like when I slow down, it's like, and which is really what it does. These medicines, they're nature, they're like nature's spirits to help you like get in tune with the cycles of nature, you know, like more in tune with, you know, the more I do this stuff, the more I want to go put my bare foot on the feet on the ground. You know, the more I do this stuff, the more I want to go like grab a tree every once in a while and, you know, pee on it, you know, and like, but it makes my mind like slow down enough to where, you know, I'm contemplating more, I'm more in touch with my breath. And then, yes, like the proof for me is in how much better like my jujitsu's gotten, like the opportunities that I've gotten, the people that I've met, the people that have come into my life. Like I met people, I've fallen in love with people on this journey of you know, psychedelics. Like I've met people in a much deeper way, you know, but I've also had to feel a lot more too. So it's not all good, you know, like
Yep.
as high as you can get on psychedelics, you have to realize life is still life, and you can feel the low parts of that as well. And sometimes those, like what the medicine is teaching you is that those lows are exactly what you asked for. You know, that's exactly what you need to go through to get to where you're going. And that's one thing Carlos Duran, who's our teacher with Operation Purify, he's like, the medicine's going to give you what you need, but what you need and what you want might not always be the same thing.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I love that. I love that. And also, sometimes, you know, what you want, yeah, you might get exactly what is needed, but you're resistant to it because you might have to give up something. You might have to give up a lot, actually, but this is the path. And are you willing to actually make those sacrifices and get rid of what's not serving you. That's super hard for most people. In my experience, just recently, right, having done the work in Mexico, part of what I learned is like, there's some things I need to cut out that I know in my bones, in my soul, it's just not serving me. And one of the things was my coaching business. I just really I like coaching, but it just wasn't serving me. But I was so reluctant and hesitant because I'm like, yeah, but this is the first thing I created. Like, this is my first business venture. And then I'm just going to say it's done. That's hard on my ego because it's like, well, is it a failure? Not really. I helped a lot of people, but also it's holding me back because I don't feel connected with it. I feel like it is a struggle to go through it, but to also realize like, hey, I created something great. Like, we're having a conversation here on this podcast, which came out of it. And it's just being able to put that aside and be like, I'm okay with it not being there anymore. And it's a simple example, but I mean, we all have our different struggles and our own creations that we've held on to just because of the fact that, well, we created it. We can't just like kill your baby, right? It's something that as a human, you typically don't want to do, but it may not be serving you. So it's a great point. It's a great point. I could talk about it all day, but I want to get into now that your jiu-jitsu's improved. Awesome. Clearly it has. I watched you kick the shit of the big match you had was that was a few months ago. Or was that last year? Where you combat jiu-jitsu, and it was my first exposure to combat jiu-jitsu. I watched the video before actually showing up or actually it was at the retreat. Dave showed it to us. I showed it to me anyways. I was like, oh, that's Jared? I'm like, oh shit. Like, this is legit. So what got you to that point, man? Because like, obviously that wasn't something that just all of a sudden you get a shot at fighting a former UFC all-star in combat jiu-jitsu. Let's get into that story a little bit, man. What were you thinking and how that opportunity showed itself?
Yeah, last September, I got a really awesome matchup with Jesse Taylor, who was Ultimate Fighter winner twice. Dude he is a feral animal. He's a really cool dude too. We ended up creating a pretty cool relationship after the fact. But like, it's sort of hard to explain. I don't know, it's like hard to articulate exactly how everything's unfolded, but just staying committed to the path and then doing my inner work and, taking care of the little things. But it's just like, still unfolding. Like, I actually feel like I'm a completely different person now coming into this next fight in June than I was back in September. I mean, I was about 20 pounds heavier. That fight was at 205. And, it's just the path that I'm on with these medicines. And then also my own, just commitment to my own inner work and trying to figure out, where is this path leading me? Because, just not too much is super illuminated. Like, I don't really 100% know, but I have made a lot of changes. I've gotten rid of a lot of things in my life, and my body's just kind of like, come down in weight. And so this next fight's at 185, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so, and I walk around at like 190, like now. I used to walk around at like almost 210. So just different things that I've changed in my relationship with food, my relationship with like things that I use as supplements, like, just because I like kind of what you're saying, like they've got me this far, but like, they're just not serving me anymore, And I had to make some really hard choices this last winter, which coincided with some pretty hard things that I went through. I almost cut off my finger in November. I got 30 stitches on my hand and severed both tendons and cut the nerves in half. Like, I don't have nerve feeling in my pinky really. So I got surgery in November, and I went through a pretty dark winter. I'm really low, lower than I've been in a while, and which is hard to say and hard to talk about, but it's so real that I feel like it just needs to, I just like have to be honest about just the place I was in, because I was riding such a high from that fight, September. I went through ayahuasca, in June, and was having a great summer, and, I just like, everything was really great. And, I was riding this wave and got this opportunity to fight this combat jiu-jitsu. I took it. I faced the fear. It was an awesome experience. Like, I really had a great time. And then, it's just like integration on the back end. And like, it's also a seasons change, and going into winter, it's just part of life. I was trying, I've just had to really, trust that this is, the cycle of time I'm in. And I went through another ayahuasca ceremony in December with Ryan, and yeah, cut out more out of my life and was still just like grinding through the winter and stuff like that. And got a really great opportunity to go to this retreat center called Rising Ridge, which is another great veterans group. Jared Napier is just like an amazing dude, great family guy, and they do combo and psilocybin ceremonies. So they are a religious organization. They do it all in ceremony. It's great. And they have this beautiful property in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I'm actually heading out there before this fight. I'm heading there next weekend for Memorial Day.
Cool.
Yeah, and combo is this really interesting peptide. There's a ton of peptides. It's just this frog secretion. They burn your skin and they put the peptide on your skin and you purge. It's not a psychedelic. It's a central nervous system reset. So you're getting a lot of like you're lengthening your vagal tone and you're just resetting your nervous system to be able to handle fight or flight better. And I'm pretty sure in like traditional setting, like where they get the tree frog from down in the Amazon, they do it before like they go hunting, stuff like that, to like clarify. And I know a lot of fighters have been drawn to it, and so that's actually what got me interested, and I got connected with Jared. So kind of like diving into the spirit of the frog a little bit, and that's been good. And but yeah, like I said, like I'm kind of a completely different person than I feel like I was, and I've competed one time and it went well. It was like a Naga tournament in Portland, and I did the absolute division and did really well. So I do have one kind of competition on my belt, but I haven't competed, and I've just been consistently training and consistently studying and consistently working, and doing my life and just all the things that I feel like integration is, because you really do got to slow down at some point when you do these psychedelics. It's not just like your mind's not going to race, it's not going to get like super like much faster. You're actually learning how to slow down and get rid of things that don't serve you anymore and make and align your life more to like who you truly are and what you're meant for and that kind of thing. So it's been a bit of I would say like bit of a slow thing, but coming into this or like slow season and coming into this next fight, like I'm really excited. Like it's almost like a feeling of like I know I'm capable of having a really good performance, and I've trained really hard and it's all really aligned. Like I know I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I think I'm just giving myself an opportunity to like when I get there to like feel what I'm feeling, and I think I'm gonna be pretty dangerous showing up that night.
Well, by the looks of it, yeah, you could be pretty dangerous, man. Didn't your last fight, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you injured like a few weeks before your last fight and you were kind of freaking out like, oh shit, like I don't know if we're going to be able to fight. Did I get that story right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That was a really hard time. I went to the ADCC Open in Las Vegas the first week in August. I made a road trip out there with a couple of my buddies and competed. And then I was the dude who won my bracket. I lost to him, and he like dislocated or like I've had like dislocated ribs in the past, and it's just like it's the type of like bruising on your rib that there's so much acute pain that you can't live roll effectively because the pain override system's so high. It's just the threshold was so high. So like what ended up happening was I knew I heard it, but like I don't let it get in my head too much, and it was fine just walking around day to day and stuff. But when I'd go to train hard, so I ended up flying to Calgary right after that to see my girlfriend at the time. And I was training in Calgary, and I went to a jiu-jitsu gym there and tried to roll with them, and it completely deflated me. It hurt, dude. Like I just got crushed because I couldn't roll effectively. I couldn't be myself on the mats because of how much pain I was in. And I'm 2 weeks away from fighting fucking Jesse Taylor, my first combat jiu-jitsu match, my first like really big stage, And so I had this moment. I was either going to make, I really do feel like it was either going to make me or break me because I could have gone either way. And, yeah, I don't know. Just the girl I was with, she taught me a little bit about this book. I don't know if you've heard of the I Ching, or the book of.
Well, you told me about it when we were in
I
Mexico.
did tell you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this wisdom book, and it's a little bit of or it's like an oracle. It's ancient. Like Carl Jung wrote the foreword in this Richard Wilhelm's version, and it's ancient. It's like I think It's older than the Bible, and it's very in tune with nature. But it's a really cool book if anyone's interested in I Ching. Well, anyways, she taught me a bit about it, and so I just kind of like centered myself, asked like, what do I need to do to prepare for this fight? And it gave me a really awesome response, something that I could meditate on. I journaled on it and all this stuff. And what I took away from it was, for the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to train at all. So I didn't train. I was just going to focus on things that I could do for my conditioning that didn't hurt my ribs. And then whatever happened, that whatever state my rib was in during that match, I was just going to embrace it, whatever pain it was or whatever. It was completely healed by the time I got there. So
That's great.
yeah. And I think part of that was the girl I was with. It's some sort of healing touch, but also the power of my mind,
Yeah, for sure. That's really cool, man. Yeah, when you told me that story, I was like, wow, man, like a 2-week out window and your rib is in a bad place. Like literally, it's usually I'm not going to be able to fight. But when you told me that story, that you just said, you know what, I'm just going to accept it and not train, like not get on the mats for 2 weeks. Wow. And then you had a great result at the end of the day and healed. There's a big lesson in there, man, for anybody that's, paying attention to this. Sometimes it's, less is more a lot of times. And being able to heal and just, acceptance and getting in the right energy state. There's so much to it and so much to learn about it. When you just start scratching the surface, that we're these our bodies are healing machines. We're always trying to heal. And if you can just let it, and like you said, get out of the way. Get out of the way, man. You're going to process at a certain rate. But if you got all these roadblocks in the way, it just slows it down. Well, imagine you could just remove some roadblocks. Now it's got full potential. That is, I wanted to bring it up because I remember you telling me the story in Mexico. I thought it'd be really good for folks that are listening, that, you can get into a state of acceptance and be like, well, this is what it is. And I'm going to ask for what I should do next. And just being able to listen, to what you get back is so important to be able to perform in your case. So tell us a little bit more about this fight coming up, man. I'm really curious. You said it's in California. It's combat jiu-jitsu, if I understand correctly. And what's on the line here? What's this all about?
Yes, Subversive, Long Beach, June 6th. I'll be heading out this weekend to, like I said, Tulsa, and then I'm going to fly straight from there to Long Beach and spend about a week there, just kind of like acclimating. On the line so he's the number 1 contender for the belt in that weight class, and I'm the number 2 guy. So if I beat him, I'll have a match against the guy who has the belt. So that's going to be a big deal. Be a big match. That dude's a black belt. My opponent, Noah, he's a super cool dude, really good competitor. This guy's a brown belt. But again, like, belts don't really matter, when it's nogi, especially since, like, if wrestling had belts, I'd be a black belt. So, yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting. I don't think this guy's gonna wrestle with me per se. He doesn't have a very strong wrestling background, so I think it's gonna be a really interesting match for me to like figure out how to adapt to his more jiu-jitsu-y style, but then like add in the strikes. I want to be the first guy to knock someone out in this organization. Like, they do a pretty good job making things go viral, and, just to demonstrate, the exciting nature of combat jiu-jitsu, I want to put this guy to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm going in. That's my plan.
Are these so this is an up and coming sport, right? Because obviously the UFC is the big daddy on the stage right now, but you've got now this combat jiu-jitsu. I've also seen, the bare knuckle fighting stuff. These are sports that are kind of up and coming. Is there a way to like do these? Does your fight, does it get broadcast like on YouTube or anything like that? Like, is there a way for us to tune in, or do we need like a subscription, like a DAZN subscription? Where can folks tune in and watch it?
Yeah, guys, it's free. Go to Subversive. Yeah, Subversive Media on YouTube, and on June 6th, like, just like to a reminder or whatever, like, it'll be California time, probably like 7 p.m. ish. I'm the main event, so I'm about to be the very last fight. Yeah, it's this really cool environment. They have like a DJ, and it's just like they do a really good job of production and press conference and stuff. If you want to follow around, like, follow me on Instagram and stuff like that. I'll putting stuff up, and yeah, it's just I want to make it fun for everybody, and to try to get my friends involved as much as possible. And like, yeah, like I know it is an up and coming sport, and the UFC is about to invest or is investing a lot into jiu-jitsu, and the UFC is going to be, yeah, like it's always been on my radar since I was in college. I just have never really been much of a striker, and I took my own path, but I do feel really connected to it in a way. I'm not a fan of it, like I'm not like into the entertainment, but like I have friends that fight in the PFL. I have, guys who are managed by the same fight managers. Me, Aljamain Sterling and Terrence McKinney, and these guys. Like Aljamain's a former champ in the UFC, so it's like these are guys that I went to Abu Dhabi with for, or like hung out with them in Abu Dhabi. And it's just like, so I'm getting to like, I've got these connections. And so, just kind of seeing where it goes, where as the network sort of grows and expands, like I'm just, yeah, I'm like super stoked to see, what organization kind of comes up for me that might be a good fit. But right now I'm like, completely sold on Subversive and, what they're bringing to the table, and they're promoting, microdosing. They're promoting healing for
Cool.
better. They're doing something that's a little bit more community oriented and less about just, profit, so they've got a cool thing kind of
That's
going.
really cool. They're acting as a change agent, bringing, especially if they're, I didn't know that, but especially if they're looking at microdosing and, using psychedelics as a way to introduce it to the population at large, because they're coming to see the jiu-jitsu. And then on top of that, these are, and I'm realizing jiu-jitsu and like psychedelics and like becoming a better person they're overlapping, right? And it can't be a coincidence, right? Just stepping on the mats requires you to like suck it up. At least did for me. Like, you just gotta suck it up and get on the mat. It's gonna suck. You're gonna suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just constantly suck all the time, but then you just suck a little less. The resolve to go back, like, I don't know if it's the same for you, but like, you've been doing this a hell of a lot longer than me, but like, I don't like going. It's the going there that sucks. It's like, something's gonna hurt. It's like something's gonna hurt. But it's once you're there, it's like, what's going on, bro? It's like, like you're with your tribe again, and then you roll, and it's like, I'm glad I showed up. But you can't, I don't think you can get past that initial stage of jiu-jitsu without having other parts of your life improve, because that part is just so, like, a combat's just so hard. And then psychedelics is hard, for folks that haven't done it. It's not easy, man. Like, if you really go down the rabbit hole, and I haven't gone down even yet, but the little bit that I've done, like I said, like getting rid of things that aren't serving you, that is crazy hard, man. Like, that's probably been the hardest part so far on my journey, is just getting rid of things that aren't serving me. So I can see where Subversive is connecting the two things together, and that's exciting, man. That just makes me even more of a fan. So before we wrap up, Jared, where can folks find you, and what are some words of wisdom before we?
Yeah, I'm on the social medias and stuff. You can find me in Michigan if you have a problem with me.
Just show up to Michigan, I'll find you. It's like, Jared got beef with you, bro. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I'll give you a hug. It'll be good. We'll be fine. Yeah, social medias, whatever. But I like to connect with people, veterans, and people who are working on their mindsets and just like building communities and stuff like that. I will say, like, as far as like a message or anything, I don't have anything too much, other than just, like people tapping into their authenticity and doing their things and finding their things and just doing what you're doing what I'm doing, just like slowly trying to get rid of the old, step into the new, things that aren't serving you, evaluating your relationships, a lot of self-love. I know it sounds dumb, but like a lot of self-love, self-respect, like a lot of like, those can be intentions, those, just the intention to like, heal and kind of stuff like that. Those are things that you can put those intentions into anything you do, learning to let go, kind of the things that you were talking about. And honestly, one of the things you said about, like showing up to practice, like there's always a resistance there. There's always that resistance, it's going to hurt, and then there's also like the, social ramifications, like, going to practice and, you don't feel a certain way or whatever, but it's all, to, get to that moment where you can just like get in, grind, and then you kind of feel like, okay, there's a weight off your shoulder type thing. Feeling to anything that you do that's difficult, right? It's like flexing that muscle of like, I know I don't want to do this, but I know it'll be good for me, and so I do it anyways. And when you do that, that muscle actually grows in your brain. You flex that, and it's overall, very good thing. I do have a couple like products.
You can
Can I?
chill, man. This is the whole point.
Okay, shilling time. So these are three companies that have supported me, and like if you find any resonance with them and want to start using some more natural herbs, this company called Lost Empire Herbs out of California, and they have this stuff called Shilajit. It's like black tar. You can put in your
Oh
coffee.
yeah, I've seen ads for that. Is that actually good?
It's very good. Yeah, so a funny story, my buddy Mark from college, shout out Mark Savinok, he's an All-American at Wheaton. This Russian dude, one of the most athletic guys I've ever wrestled with, one of my training partners, he told me that his parents, who was like this big Russian family, they're like first generation in America, they used to put this stuff, it's like this sap that comes off of the top, like the stalactites of mountains, like it's like drips down and it's like found in mountains. And they said that they used to take and ball this up and put it on the inside of their kids' gums. It's like known as like a steroid. It's like known to like increase your metabolism. It's got a ton of minerals to help with like hydration. So this has like been a staple for me over time that I've always used. And yeah, you can get 20% off with the code, my last name. And, you can find that through my Instagram and stuff like that too. If you want. I think another funny one, they sent me this and I was like, I've always wanted to try this, but it's just like, it was pretty expensive. And I stuck to the things that I knew that worked, but this is called Stag Swag. So
Yeah.
it's got elk antler velvet, and pine pollen. So I'm big on the pine pollen because of like eat a lot of raw honey, which when you eat raw honey, which this is the company that I beekeep for, Sleeping Bear Farm.
Right.
Yeah, and so I eat a lot of raw honey. I'm not really shilling for them. I just think they're awesome, and I think you should eat.
Like, that was your signature move in Mexico. It's like, hey, you want some honey? I'm like, yeah, you get these
Yeah,
little sticks of honey. It's like,
this is for
all right.
love. This is literally just because, like, hey, if you eat more raw honey, like you'll be happier. Yeah, I'm down to share with anybody. Yeah, and it's funny now because I beekeep for them, and I literally get unlimited honey. Like I have a fucking like 5 pound bucket of raw honey,
You
and
could be like Winnie the Pooh, just take a handful.
well, I'm not kidding. Like every morning, that's the one of the first things I do is like, actually kind of absurd. Wondering if I could get addicted to that, but anyways. I have look at that. But yeah, and, there's one other product. It's Johnny Slicks. It's like this beard grooming organic beard. So if you like you got a beard and you want to put better stuff in your beard, I have another code on my Instagram and stuff like that. So those are all ways you can support me too. Right now, it's just like I get kickbacks for that. So and I believe in their products. They're all healthy and stuff I would tell my kids.
Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, we'll drop the link for your Instagram account here in the description, but folks, go over, give them a follow.
Yeah, and
Right.
if you're in LA somehow and you want to come to this fight, hit me up because yeah, you can buy a ticket in my name. That'd
Oh,
be sick.
sick. All
Yeah,
right. So all
I
you
don't.
California folks,
Yeah,
Long Beach. I love I love California.
yeah,
I've been there like 4 times in the last few years for like conferences and stuff like that. And it's just, I know they got their like, politics aside, it's just so nice, man. It's just like the
totally.
weather's good, the food's good. It's just,
Yeah,
the beach is good,
tuned out.
people are good.
The vibe there is beautiful. Yeah, you gotta like get it, just like be in your own zone and enjoy it, and then you can be in your own bubble. But yeah, I got an old friend that has a place in Santa Monica, and Santa Monica is just one of the. It's like where Grand Theft Auto was. Like I
Yeah.
like that Grand
Yeah.
Theft Auto. I feel like in that video game I'm there, dude.
Oh shit. Awesome. Jared, man, I really appreciate your time, sharing your journey, at least a part of it. And hopefully folks, you got some good insights here from a fellow veteran, getting shit done, putting in the work, and representing veterans on a world stage with BJJ. So go follow him on Instagram. Make sure to watch the fight. I'm definitely going to be tuning in as well. Can't wait for that. And that's on June 6th. So we'll put the link here too, so that it's easy for you folks that are ADD to find everything all in one spot. And Jared, thanks so much, man. This has been a real hoot. I hope we can go do some ayahuasca in the jungle together at some point. I'm sure that'll likely happen. Yeah, and then I'll have to invite you up here too at some point so you can enjoy some Montreal poutine and watch a hockey game.
Yes, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, you know what you need to do: train hard, fight easy, and we'll see you on the next one.